Hello everyone, well what a video we've got for you here. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Winter 2023-24 NAO Forecast. One of the biggest videos that we do throughout the year, and here it is again. So this is a tradition at this time of year at GavsWeatherVids that we have our opening sale though for the next winter. Every journey has a first step, every saga has a beginning, and this is where we begin our journey for our countdown to the winter of 2023-24. And yes, it's the NAO forecast. I shall get on with that for you in a moment, just to say that we are premiering this winter 2023-24 NAO forecast on YouTube on the 18th of June. So I'm probably in the premiere with you all right now. Hello to all of you in the premiere, and I'm sure having a laugh. Gaz sitting here saying hello to himself. But thank you to everybody who is on the premiere with me on this auspicious day. And of course, if you're watching this after the premiere, then hello to all of you as well. If you enjoy this winter 2023-24 NAO forecast, then please like, share and subscribe, and thank you so much everybody for doing that. Thank you so to Richard for the winter 2023-24 NAO forecast gift. Thank you so much, Rich, for our amazing gift. Thank you so much, my friend. Okay, let's do this then. So we're going to start off, of course, telling you about the NAO. So the North Atlantic Oscillation is simply a way of measuring the atmospheric setup in the North Atlantic, if you like. It doesn't drive anything in its own terms. It just tells us what the atmosphere is doing. There are two states to the NAO. Well, probably three, but majorly there's two states, positive and negative. You could also find yourself in like a neutral state where you are neither between negative or positive NAO. Now in winter, the positive NAO is the default setup. So when you have a positive NAO, and this is a very good example of it here from Saturday the 5th of February 2022 at the archive West Essential, by the way, for these charts. Thanks so much to them. So when you're in a positive NAO, you will have low pressure around Greenland, Iceland, and in the North Atlantic. You'll have high pressure from the Azores reaching into Spain and Portugal. Between those two contrasting pressure belts, low pressure and high pressure, you'll tend to have quite a strong jet stream coming across the Atlantic, quite a strong westerly flow, and those areas of low pressure will drive in bands of rain, and between those bands of rain you'll tend to get showers. This is generally quite a mild setup as well. The Atlantic is nearly always milder than the continent or the Arctic in the winter. So if you're in a positive NAO, you will tend to have a westerly or a southwesterly type setup. This is another very good example of the positive NAO. This is from the 5th of February, again, 1989. And we see with this one that the high pressure is a little bit more focused on France, Spain and Portugal, but it has reached in from the Azores. Again, we see lots and lots of low pressure, deep polar vortex around Greenland and Iceland, and up comes that mild west-southwesterly wind. That was an exceptionally mild winter, of course. Winter of 1989 was an exceptionally positive NAO winter as well. So a couple of examples of the positive NAO. What about the negative NAO? Well, this is a pretty good example, I think, from the daddy of cold winters in 1963. Notice it's a complete flip, the complete reverse of the positive NAO setup. You have a negative North Atlantic oscillation. You'll tend to get high pressure in the North Atlantic going up towards Greenland, sometimes Scandinavia as well, but often going to Greenland. You'll get a trough of low pressure, therefore, and a dip in the jet stream within the 500 millibar flow, I should say, across northern and western Europe. So rather than the jet stream being flat and westerly coming across the Atlantic, we get meridionality of the jet stream. It's basically doing something a little bit like that. And when the jet stream does that, it allows cold air to come out of the polar regions, out of the Arctic, out of the North Pole, and sometimes from the Urals, sometimes from Russia, and it brings colder weather with it a lot of the time. So a very good example there of the negative NAO from 1963. Another great example is from 2010. This is the December to remember. Again, we have an exceptionally negative NAO on this day, which is the 16th, 17th of December 2010, as high pressure goes shooting up towards Greenland, and a polar vortex gets displaced from the polar region down into northern parts of Europe. Look at that northerly blast that's coming all the way from the Arctic because of that blocking, pushing northwards and pushing out the polar vortex and the cold air with this area of low pressure. Look how that evolved by the 17th of December. You've basically got polar vortex sitting over the top of the UK and northern and western Europe at the same time. You have all of this very extreme northern blocking through the Arctic and the North Atlantic and Greenland and all those sort of areas. So again, the jet stream with that is doing something a little bit like that. Very, very extreme jet stream. And it places, of course, northern and western Europe under very cold air. That's the exception to the rule, remember. The default setup for the Atlantic and northern Europe is this one and this one. These two, the negative NAO setups, they are the exception to the rule. But we do get cold winters at times. They can occur. And so, you know, that's how the NAO swings from positive to negative from one winter to another. Now, we look at sea surface temperature anomalies in the month of May, sometimes to give us a bit of a clue about what may happen for the following winter. Now, this is a UK Met Office, an old UK Met Office methodology. And but one thing with this, and I'm never sure about, people will want to know, but one thing I'm never sure about, and I don't know, is why the month of May? Why not April? Why not June? Why not July? I'd rather sit down with somebody at the UK Met and ask them why it is the month of May that is the important month before the next winter. All I can think is that May is like the quietest month on average in the North Atlantic, and so you will tend to get like very little churn through the month of May, and so that tends to be the month where the Atlantic reveals its true state for any given year. Remember, the Atlantic is constantly oscillating and changing. It's not a continuous state. You know, every year is individual. Every year is individual in terms of what the Atlantic is doing, whether it's warming or cooling, and where those warmer or cooler zones are. So this is from the 10th of May 2015. Now I want you to ignore the Pacific. This is the Pacific Ocean over here, and like this is the largest ocean. So just try and ignore that. We're focusing over here in the North Atlantic. That's the area that we're interested in. When we get into our winter updates, don't get me wrong, the Pacific is important, the ENSO region, for example, the Northern Pacific, and also the Indian Ocean over here. When we get into our winter updates proper from the beginning of September, then we will, of course, start to incorporate Pacific and Indian Ocean data into this as well. But for this NAO forecast, for the NAO forecast, North Atlantic Oscillation forecast, we are looking purely simply at the North Atlantic. So this from 2015 is a good example of an Atlantic sea surface temperature anomaly profile that will point you towards a positive NAO for the following winter. They've got all these cold average sea surface temperatures up here in the North Atlantic and in the tropical Atlantic as well. It is a little bit warmer through there. So it's almost like a reverse of a tripole with cool over warm over cool. More about tripole in a moment. Another example of a May sea surface temperature anomaly profile that leads you to forecast or predict a positive NAO will be this from 2018. This is 10th of May 2018. Again, notice we've got this horseshoe shape of cool sea surface temperature anomalies from the tropical Atlantic up towards Greenland. And then to the west of that, we've got this warmer area just here from the east coast of America over towards the Azores. And again, that is the kind of profile that you would look at and you would think if that was to repeat in the subsequent winter, which what we're assuming is going to happen with this methodology, of course, if that was to repeat, then you would assume that would lead to quite a positive NAO type setup, so a default southwesterly type setup. So what we're looking for is what we call a tripole, which is warm over cool over warm through the North Atlantic. And this is a very good example here from the 10th of May 2005. With this one, we've got warmer than average sea surface temperature to the south of Greenland to Newfoundland. From Newfoundland southwards, we've got cooler than average sea surface temperature anomalies from the Azores back to the east coast of America. And then we go warmer than average again through the tropical Atlantic or subtropical and tropical Atlantic. So three very distinct bands: warm, cool, warm. That's what we call a tripole, and if you get that in the winter, then it can sometimes, very often actually, there's about a 2 in 3 success rate with this, I think. So if you get that in winter, that would lead you towards a negative NAO type scenario. This is another good example of a tripole. This is from the 10th of May 2010. Again, we see we've got those warmer over cooler over warmer SST anomalies, 3 distinct bands: warm, cool, warm. And again, if that happens in the month of May, you would project that through to winter and say that a cooler or colder than average negative NAO winter is more likely for northern and also western parts of Europe. Okay, that has explained what the NAO is and, you know, what we're looking at or what we're looking for. I'm going to stop the video there just very briefly. I'll be back in 2 seconds. I'm going to give everybody a big laugh in the live chat, I'm sure, on the premiere. I'm going to stop the pause the video there, and when we come back, we're going to go through the sea surface temperature anomaly data for May 2023, and then we will do the forecast. So hang in there, and all shall be revealed in around 2 seconds. See you in a mo. Okay, well that was that was a nice break, wasn't it? What did you do in the break? Did you have a little bit of magic water? I did. I had about 4. No, I'm so sorry, everybody. You had a nice break, though. Yeah. Won't you stretch your legs? And anyway, we're back and we're ready to now go through the data. Right, let's have a look then. So this is how we begin May sea surface temperature anomalies in the North Atlantic. Remember, we are trying to ignore the Pacific and the Indian Ocean, you know, the Southern Oceans. We are just purely looking at the North Atlantic here. And I know it's difficult because the Pacific Ocean is actually like straight ahead, isn't it? Whereas you've got to move your eyes over to the right of the screen a little bit to focus on the Atlantic. But let's try and ignore the Pacific. So here we go then. This is how we begin on the 1st of May with those sea surface temperature anomalies in the North Atlantic. What's very striking, starting us off, is that we've got this big warm area here from the Azores and the Canary Islands down into the tropical and subtropical Atlantic, so plenty of warmth through there. We've got cooler than average sea surface temperature anomalies to the north and the west of that. Not quite backing towards the east coast of America, but more, you know, between like Newfoundland and Azores, I suppose. I mean, it does look a little bit warmer up here, but not excessively so. So as we start May, we don't look all that far from a tripole. It's not perfect by any means that, but we don't look too far away from what we would class as a tripole there. So we look as we go to the 5th of May, not much change, other than it's turned a little bit cooler through this area and has maintained the warmth through here. It's also warmed up a little bit to the south of Greenland. Again, that isn't all that far away from a tripole, in my opinion. It's not perfect. Again, you will want the area to the south of Greenland. You'll want this area to be warmer. You will want this area to be a little bit colder. This area, of course, is fine for the warmth, but it's further north and westwards but it needs to be slightly different to be a classic tripole situation. Nevertheless, not all that far away. Now, this is how we look on the 10th of May 2023. Things are definitely warming up around here. They're still warm through there, and it's relatively cool through there as well. So we're like beginning to get what looks a little bit like a horseshoe shape of warmth here from Greenland going down into tropical and subtropical Atlantic with cooler sea surface temperatures over towards America. Again, not all that far from a tripole, I don't think. That's the 15th of May 2023. Now, we're beginning to lose those cooler temperatures here. They are still a little bit cooler than elsewhere in the North Atlantic, though. So that's how we're looking on the 15th of May. And again, not all that far away from a classic tripole signature. Just not quite right to be an absolute classic. That's the 20th. Again, looking relatively warm through much of the North Atlantic, as it has done for several years, actually. Cooler through that area, and you know, relatively warmish to south of Greenland, but not as warm as in other areas of the North Atlantic. That's the 25th of May 2023. Please let me know in the comments what you think to be sea surface temperature anomalies. By the way, and in the live chat, do we think that this is close to a tripod signature? What do we think? I don't think it's all that far away, but it isn't perfect. That's the 31st of May, 2023, last day of the month. Things have definitely turned warmer through here, and they're still warm as they have been all month down there. Still a little bit cooler through there and through there as well. So, if we have a look at the 2 years that I found that I would compare this to, that I think are closest. I've gone all the way back to 1985, studied sea surface temperature right way back to 1985 in terms of May sea surface temperature. So this is the first year that I think is reasonably close. We've got 1995. Now remember, this is a long time ago, so the projection of the map is significantly different. Everything is like much closer together, if you see what I mean, compared to now. But if you can envisage, like, this is the Azores, the Canary Islands, so what am I doing? This is the Azores, the Canary Islands, where it's nice and warm and down through the tropical, subtropical Atlantic. That does go up towards Greenland as well. And then we've got this colder than average area sea surface temperature anomalies just there. There are differences, so if we compare that again with like 2023, so you see there's like the similarity here, but obviously the cold average area of sea surface temperature is a lot colder than it is this year, and things are warmer to the south of Greenland as well. This area is kind of on a par with it around here. So that's why I'm saying it's close to a tripole this year, but it's not a classic, it's not classically close to it. That's the 31st of May, 1995. You can see, again, warm through there, particularly warm through the tropical and subtropical Atlantic, but look how much colder this area is from Newfoundland down towards the east coast of America. Much colder there in 1995 compared to 2023. So it's not that far away, but it's just not quite perfect. And then the only other example I could find that kind of similar, I think, was in 2017. That actually, it's warmer this year to the south of Greenland than it was in 2017, but this area in 2017 was quite warm, and then this area was a little bit cooler. So again, not all that far away from tripod. I think we forecast a weekly negative NAO in 2017 for 2017-2018 NAO forecast. So yes, they're the two close years. Otherwise, I can't find any year, but it's doing what 2023 was doing. Let's pull that over there. I can't find any other year that is doing what 2023 was doing in terms of this overall setup that we saw there through May 2023. So it has left me, let's get rid of that, has left me with a little bit of an issue trying to work out what we're going to predict. But I have come up with a forecast. You've got to work with what you're given, haven't you, in this business? And I've got to go for something. So what I'm saying with this, and it's kind of similar actually to quite a few of the NAO forecast that we've done in the last few years. We're going for a weekly negative NAO. We're saying that we are close to a tripole. In fact, we probably do have something of a tripole there in the North Atlantic through the month of May, but not a classic, not a 1995, not a 2005, not a 2010. This is not a classic negative NAO tripole type of signature that we've seen in May 2023. Nevertheless, I think there's enough there, particularly in terms of how warm the subtropical and tropical North Atlantic have been. I think there's enough there to suggest that the NAO is likely to be either in a neutral or sort of weekly negative type phase. Now, of course, within this, there is a margin of error. So within the margin of error, we could go much further into negativity of the NAO. We could have neutral to weekly positive. What I would be very surprised if we got was a very strongly negative NAO for winter 2023-24, or indeed we got very strongly positive NAO for winter 2023-24. But in terms of the Atlantic, now there are other factors that might override that, and particularly important this year will be El Nino. If we start seeing El Nino powering up and taking off, then all bets are off, because El Nino, when it reaches like very strong or super Nino status, does have the ability to override any other signal and leave us, with a very positive NAO type winter. But just purely on its own terms in terms of the North Atlantic, I think we're forecasting, we're looking at a negative, but only weekly negative NAO winter for 2023-24. Now, Rich has done a little swingo for us, a little swingometer for us. So here it is. The GavsWeatherVids NAO Winter 2023-24 NAO swingometer is suggesting like 52 negative to 48% positive. So you see we are very much into just weekly negative territory there. We're not like 60, I don't know, 60-40 or 70-30 negative. We're not saying but this is likely to be a very strongly negative NAO winter. But there's enough there, I think, to suggest that the NAO is likely to be on the weekly negative side. And so that's going to leave things quite interesting, quite poised, I think, as we move on into our winter updates, which are going to begin in September. Actually, Sunday, the 3rd of September, will be the first day of the winter update. So things quite interesting, quite poised there, I think. Thank you so much, Richard, for our 52-48 weekly, slightly negative NAO swingometer. Right then, so that's it for the Winter 2023-24 NAO forecast. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Let me know in the live chat. Well, I'm sure you are there. I'm sure you are letting me know what you think, and also let me know in the comments what you think as well, you know, about this NAO forecast. This does have impacts for America as well, by the way. The NAO is something that can affect both Northern Europe and also North America. A little bit less so for North America because America, you know, in the States, can get cold air with a positive NAO, actually, if it comes in from Canada. So the NAO is a little bit more important for, like, Northern Europe than it is for America, but it can be cold, like, on both sides of the Atlantic. And if the NAO is negative in winter, tend to be cold in America anyway, you know, because there'll usually be some sort of blocking around Greenland, which will usually deliver some cold air down into North America as well as northern parts of Europe. So, you know, both sides of the Atlantic, this is quite important for winter 2023-24. And that brings us to the end then, everybody. So I hope you have enjoyed this winter 23-24 NAO forecast. All that remains now is just to go off and enjoy the rest of the summer, I think, and then we'll come back in September and we'll begin our winter updates. We'll see how things are looking. So this just gets us to base camp, basically. As I said at the start, every journey has a first step, every saga has a beginning. This is nothing more than the first step and the beginning of the journey and the saga to winter 2023-24. But what we've got to do now is go off, enjoy the summer, and then we'll come back in September, on Sunday the 3rd of September, and we will commence our winter updates. I think they're going to be quite interesting, with signs of a big El Nino and also signs of potentially a little bit of a negative NAO. You know, I think winter updates are going to have a lot of interest this year. I hope they do. So hopefully I'll see you in early September. You all have a fantastic summer until then. And yeah, so for the winter 2023-24 NAO forecast, thank you so much to Richard for our gift and also for the swingometer for the winter of 2023-24 NAO forecast. That is all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and